we have before us the opportunity to forge for ourselves and for future generations a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations.
Well, Brother Goodwin here, that's quite a statement. That was 1991, January 16th, State of the Union. Then President George H. Bush said that a global one world order was coming and was needed. And in today's show, we're going to show you some more clips from another president, a more recent president, in fact, a current president, that says that we need this one world order. The show today, you're not going to want to miss it. We are going to discuss the coming global one world system. Stay tuned. All right, Brother Goodwin here and Dr. Charles Hiltibidal with me. This is Prophecy in the Spotlight, and we're going to discuss that very important topic today of the coming one world kingdom. We've talked about this before, Doc. It's really here. It's just not fully implemented. The system is in place, most of it.
I think all of the pieces are there. They're just not all put together.
And quite a clip from George H.W. Bush, I guess is how you say his name. But I remember where I was when that happened. I was driving a truck. I was in Bible college. I was at the end of Bible college, 1991, a long time ago. I remember I was driving a semi in Chicago when that was on the radio. And I listened to it. I heard him say that.
I watched it.
And I remember telling folks, hey, George Bush is a globalist.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, we all know that now, and his son was too, by the way.
I think we all knew it from the beginning. But
yeah. So, well, I don't know if all of us did, but, a lot of folks were just brainwashed into thinking the Republicans are the good guys, the Democrats are the bad guys. I got news for you. There's some good Republicans, but there's a lot of globalist Republicans too.
There's a lot of globalists out there.
Look, it takes all of Congress to sell us down the road like they have with, we're 30-some trillion in debt. That takes Republicans and Democrats to spend that kind of money.
Absolutely.
And nobody ever wants to cut anything, by the way.
No, anyway, we better get off of that subject.
Yeah. So that clip, I remember where I was when that happened. That, by the way, right after Desert Storm, and
always, hey, people need to understand that anytime there's global wars of some sort like that, and like Ukraine right now, all of them are being used for the purpose of setting the stage for what we're talking about.
You got a verse for us, and then we have another clip. Let's go ahead and have that verse that you've got for us.
Well, Daniel talks about 3 end-time gods. They weren't controlling in his day. He's talking about the Antichrist in Daniel 11. And verse number 39, the third one is, he said, "Thus shall he do in the most strongholds with a strange God, whom he shall acknowledge and increase with glory." And I'm convinced, he goes on to say that he shall cause them, all 3 of them, to rule over many, and shall divide the land for gain. And so I'm convinced the strange God, which means a foreign God, that which is outside your borders, is going to have a role in bringing the other gods, technology being one of them, science, and money and finance being the other. I think that's globalism bringing it all together, and I think that's where we're at right now.
Now, we talked in the update that's not on television. Folks, in case you're watching us on television, we have a YouTube channel, and you ought to go and find that. If you have a computer, if you have internet, we have a YouTube channel. Just go to the website, Prophecy in the Spotlight. You can find everything right there. The YouTube channel's there. We have a Rumble channel. We've got Facebook. We've got all kinds of different venues for you. We've got the radio listings. We're on the radio all over the country. in many different cities across the country. You can find them by clicking the radio button on the website. So, but last in the update that preceded this program here, that's not on television, Doc, we talked about some interesting things about globalism.
Yes.
One of the things we talked about that I think most prophecy people have never understood this. The global one world system, I believe, is already here when Revelation 6 and the Antichrist comes on the white horse and he's crowned.
He's not coming to put the system together.
No.
He's coming to run it.
That's right.
Be in charge over it.
And you mentioned that that's exactly what happened
Yes.
in Genesis 11.
Yeah, when you go to Genesis 11 and you see the story of Babel, it begins, let us who? The people. Let us build and let us do this. And then they said, lest we be scattered. In other words, unless we do what God told us to do to scatter the world. And so they said, let us do this. I think it's 7 or 8, maybe 9 times you'll find let us or them. And then you find Nimrod.
Yeah.
So the people in some way begin to get this together, but in order for it to really work, they're going to have somebody to run it, be over.
So, in other words, the globalist system, we believe, you and I believe, that the globalist system will be pretty much in place
Yes.
before the rapture.
Uh-huh.
But with a globalist board like a UN or a NATO,
Yeah.
some sort of a board
Something.
of people.
You're watching these things now in Europe with NATO.
They all assemble, all the leaders of the world come together.
Yeah.
There's not one guy that's over it all. There may be somebody that organizes it, and maybe
There's
there's a chair.
Yeah, somebody's always got to be that, but it doesn't mean he's.
But he's not the authority.
He's not the absolute. The system's the authority at that
So
point.
it'll become like a board of directors.
Yes.
Or some people have a deacon board. I don't care for deacon boards, but that philosophy that there's a board of people and they decide things for the world.
Yeah.
But when the Antichrist comes on the scene, and we believe he comes on the scene coming from a battle, possibly
very
the Ezekiel
possible.
38 battle,
Yeah.
and he comes on the scene and ends that battle, becomes a great hero, and the board of directors, so to speak, of the world,
Yeah.
of this global system, crown him as the head of it all.
It's interesting. Right now, we're watching what's happening in Ukraine, and I was shocked. But this Zelensky man, they're calling him a savior.
Yeah.
What is all of this doing? It's getting the mindset with subtle thinking. It's getting the mindset that one man can save us all.
Yeah.
I mean, you see the stage being set.
Somebody even made this statement. They said they're making a Marvel character out of him.
It's about true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got news for everybody, and by the time this airs, it may already happen. I think he's going to come crumbling down.
It's very probable, but I'm just,
he's not what the media is telling us.
he never has
is.
been.
No.
He's nothing but somebody that was put up, just like Trudeau up in Canada was put up in that position, and former president we've had was put up in his position. The globalists are working with. I wonder how many of the presidents and premiers and whatever title they may have in our world have been put up in those positions by the globalists.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious. Australia is certainly in there.
Well, Doc, let's go ahead. We have another clip.
Okay.
I think it's I forget how long. I think it's 30 seconds or something like that. And this is a current clip of the sitting president of the United States talking about the one world global system.
Yes.
And so we'll be right back. So Rex will put that up for you right now.
I think this presents us with some significant opportunities to make some real changes. We are at an inflection point, I believe, in the world economy. Not just the world economy, in the world. It occurs every 3 or 4 generations. As one of the top military people said to me in a secure meeting the other day, 60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we established a liberal world order, and that hadn't happened in a long while. A lot of people dying, but nowhere near the chaos. And now is a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there, and we've got to lead it. And we've got to unite the rest of the free world in doing it. So anyway, I'm going to hush up, Mary. Fire away.
So, Doc, there it is. We've got our president saying the same thing that George H. Bush did back in 1991.
Yeah.
History repeats itself. It's the same old thing. George Bush was trying to bring in a one world order. It didn't happen.
Well, always these kind of changes, they go in spurts because they play a long game, and we think because we win an election cycle, oh boy, we've got this thing in hand. And they say, so we lost here, but the long game. And with each succession, we're further down the road.
Doc, I hate to be a defeatist, but I think they got it this time. I think we're at the end of this thing. I mean, look at what's happening. We can't discuss all this or they'll throw us off YouTube, but
we're on TV right now, so we can say it.
Right, but this is also a YouTube.
Yeah, I know.
This is also YouTube.
Yeah,
so,
that gets us kicked off every once in a while.
My goodness, look, 2 years ago, you would have never imagined in the wildest imagination of your mind. I was talking to my son yesterday, and I said, you couldn't have imagined where we are today. And he said, yeah, if it was a Hollywood movie 2 years ago, nobody would have believed it. That's too far out there. Nobody's going to believe that.
Here we are. And tomorrow, who knows where it'll be.
We got a woman trying out for the Supreme Court that can't explain define what a woman is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you begin to separate what you know, your knowledge, I heard my pastor's son recently preach on this, amazing. When you separate your knowledge from its source, you're in trouble. Yep. And so when you eliminate, they did not want to retain God in their thoughts.
That sounds like the 60s, throwing God out of the schools,
God out,
threw
so
the Bible
here's what
out.
So as you attain knowledge, separating it from truth, it becomes an error. And the next thing you know, it turns them over to vain
and it becomes subject to interpretation, since it's not attached to anything.
It becomes something you interpret on your own. And that gives you vain imaginations, empty. And it's not long until that morphs into the next. Oh, it's pretty obvious. We've come the full cycle here.
Well, I wanted to read something out of my 7 Clocks a Ticking book. I got it marked here. I have a chapter in here, and I deal with globalism in this book. The One World Kingdom, this is page 154 of the 7 Clocks a Ticking book, in case you're wondering. Excellent book, if I might say, even though I wrote it. I think this will be a big help, folks, if you don't have it. Globalism is here, I wrote in the heading. A one world kingdom would be what leaders call globalism. This term is a household word even now. We hear about global markets, global currency, global trade, global unity, and of course global war. Hey, we're headed for that now. The whole world is linked together through the internet, stock market, and banking. It is not difficult to see that this end-time system appears to be in place and ready to go. The whole world is now ready to embrace globalism. It's going to be the thing that saves the world from World War III, I believe.
That's what it could be used.
After all, we could nuke the world could be destroyed in an hour with global nuclear war and biological war. We have got to come together under one system and one person, one leader somehow to save the world. If you do not believe me, look at the following quotes concerning the subject. If you are at least 50 years of age, you should recognize most of the people in this list. And I've read some of these in the past on some of our shows, but let me just give you some quotes here. Globalism is the central reality of our time. It is coming and you can't stop it. Guess who said that? Bill Clinton in his 2000 State of the Union address. It's coming and you can't stop it. Globalism. Bill Clinton. If one word encapsulates and changes the changes we are living through, it is globalization. It is the future of the world as we know it. Former Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan. Back in the year 2000, the prime ministers of Great Britain, the Netherlands, Sweden, Chancellor of Germany, all banded together to collectively write the following. This is 2000 now, same year that Bill Clinton made his statement. We all embrace the potential of globalization. It is the future of the world as we know it. This is the world, European world leaders in America. And this is from The New Left Takes on the World, Washington Post, September 6, 2000. Here's one. Here's somebody everybody has heard of. As the world continues to change and we become more connected to each other, globalization will bring both benefits and disruptions to our lives. But either way, it is here and it's not going away. Barack Obama. President Barack Obama.
Yep.
Here's another one. People will recognize this guy. I support freedom and I support a free market economy. But, better watch them buts.
Yeah.
But it should be a socially oriented market economy. I support globalization, but it should be globalization with a human face. Mikhail Gorbachev, Russia. The internet is becoming the town square for the global village of tomorrow. Bill Gates. Here's a big quote from David Rockefeller. Here's another one from Brzezinski, Zbigniew Brzezinski. He's a big globalist.
They're all big globalists.
And here's one from Alan Greenspan of the Federal Reserve. If we allow terrorism to undermine our freedom of action, we could reverse at least part of the palpable gains achieved by post-war globalization. It is therefore incumbent upon us not to allow that to happen. In other words, we got to become global.
Can't go backwards. You got to go forwards.
And one more. Now this is from George Bush Jr. This is from. This is not the George Bush from 1991. Yep. This is his son. Globalization has altered the dynamics in the White House, as well as between the White House and the Treasury. George W. Bush. Yep. So the circle comes all the way back.
Yes.
And now we're in a new era here with a new president, and he's putting that little carrot out there.
And I wonder how many in Congress right now would be glad to sign our nation over to the control of someone else.
Most of them already kind of not in writing, but I mean they're connected financially. Many of the senators and congressmen have made millions of dollars out of China and the Ukraine. Yeah. We all saw that in...
I've been wondering how is that all going to play into the financial system that's going to actually control all of this. Are they going to lose some of those billions of dollars?
Yeah. Well, since you bring that up, here's an article that just come out. This is from March 22nd, so this is not very long ago. This is from City Journal. I'm not familiar with the City Journal. It's authored by somebody called N.S. Lyons, and I don't know who N.S. Lyons is, but the article is right on. And we read this. We did this in our update that you can watch on the YouTube channel. But let me just say this: March 9th, he says very few paid attention when on March the 9th, President Biden signed an executive order directing our government, the government, to begin developing a central bank digital currency. Now, they call it CBDC. It sounds like medical marijuana, but that's not.
No.
CBDC is central bank digital currency, kind of like cryptocurrency. The difference is this one's going to be centralized. This one's going to be controlled by a government force, where cryptocurrency stands on its own out there. And so this system is already being worked upon.
Yes. And we're behind. China's been working on it. Of course, they stole a lot of our technical abilities. But anyway, they're ahead of us in this race to control who gets to be the big dog.
Now, we can't read all of this because of time, but he makes this statement. He quotes a guy named Augustin Carstens, general manager of the Bank of International Settlements. Made this statement at the 2020 IMF summit. He said this: "We don't know who's using a $100 bill today or a $1,000 peso. The key difference with the CBDC is the central bank will have absolute control and over the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of the central bank liability or their money that they're going to let us use. And also we will have the technology to enforce it. And what that all means is if we go to this cashless system, and he says in here that in order for this to work, it requires you got to get rid of cash. Everyone will be inside the system of digital currency. And their goal is that the entire world be under this.
And that way they're totally controlled. They can, whether you want to spend it right, you're going to spend it right.
They can cut off certain vendors. Yeah. If it's a store that's not a green store, in other words, they're not green friendly.
Or if you're trying to buy something that's not green friendly.
You go try to buy some ammunition.
Or if you've exceeded your carbon footprint for the month.
Yeah, and that's all in the article.
I mean, people say, well, this couldn't happen. I'm telling you, with artificial intelligence to guide this thing, once you put the algorithms in, it's done.
Yeah, it's going to determine what you can buy, where you can buy it, how often you can buy it, how much of it you can buy.
And it'll be able to look into your health records, and you're a diabetic, you're a type 2, you've got this heart ailment, you've got that, and so you go through the drive-through, and it won't let you order what you want to order because it's not good for your health.
Yeah, they'll determine what's good for you and what isn't, and
what kind of clothes you ought to wear.
You won't be able to buy because you won't
be able to buy or sell.
This
hey,
system.
That sounds like Revelation chapter 13.
It sure does. Now you and I know that the mark of the beast does not fully come into existence until the middle of the tribulation.
Yeah, but it's going to have to be put in order by then.
And that goes back to what we were just talking about. The globalist system, we believe, you and I believe, and I'm afraid a lot of the prophecy people out there have missed this. They think that the one world system comes into effect after the rapture. No, I don't believe
it's going to already be there.
Because who crowns the Antichrist?
That's
Ever
right.
wonder? Who
Somebody's got to
him?
have the authority.
That's right.
Somebody has to be the representation of authority to place that there.
So we could use the United Nations as an example. I'm not saying it's them, but it very possibly will be. They'll be a part of this globalist
It could morph
system.
into it easily.
And so when the Antichrist comes on the scene, and he's just brought peace, or he just did some great feat, we think the Ezekiel 38 war, possibly, that he ends that somehow. And he comes back, and he comes back on a white horse, Revelation 6, and he's crowned as the head of it all. And to me, that's the global system that's in place, choosing him as the leader of the global system. Now, that doesn't fully give him all the power, because we know there's going to be some battles.
There's going to be several
battles.
battles.
There's going to be 3 that are taken out. And
But the processes in life, you mentioned it already. You've got the UN. That's centered over here in this hemisphere. But the Great Reset and all of the things that are really being taken place, that's coming out of the European Union. And somewhere along the line, it's going to look like somehow or another these two are going to merge together somehow.
Yeah.
Because right now, they're almost in competition with each other for the same goal.
And that is the goal. We just read all those quotes, most of them from 2000 or sooner.
And it's from all over the world.
All the big wigs and movers and shakers, the Bill Gateses and the Google people, they're all trying to bring in a one world system, which kind of explains the problem we have with China and Russia right now, and this conflict that's going on, is they're the two countries of the world that they're not globalists. They're for themselves.
They're for themselves, and I'm convinced, to me, in prophecy, I don't think China will ever come underneath the total control of it, because I see them coming at the end of the tribulation as the kings of the East making their way to the Middle East. I don't think they're going to be a part of it necessarily. Look at them now. They want to be their own. They want to be in charge.
Okay. Now, let's try to focus in on what this means to the people that are watching us today. First of all, we know this is coming. It can't be stopped. even these world leaders I read, it's coming and you can't stop it.
You're not going to stop it.
Now, biblically, that's a true statement.
That is a true statement.
Because God looked in the future and said, there it is. It's
going to happen.
Prophecy is already written.
And God's not making it happen. He knew in His foreknowledge this would be what humanity would design and accomplish.
So with that in mind, with all the pieces getting put in place, you and I are here, Christians are still here, the rapture hasn't happened yet, we're against globalism, not just because it turns into what it turns into. Yeah. We're against it because it conflicts capitalism and freedom, and it interferes with all that.
It becomes restrictive to the gospel effort.
And it's none of the government's business what the people buy and sell and what they do with their money. We don't want that.
It'll become impossible to buy a Bible with this system, or anything that goes along.
So with that in mind, what would you tell the people viewing, since this is making its way in, what should Christians be doing?
Well, of course, first of all, if you're not a Christian, you need to get born again. You need to be saved. But as a Christian, you need to be, number one, you need to be walking with the Lord in the Word of God daily. You need to have a prayer life. And you need to be a witness. You need to be sharing the gospel. Of all the people, you ought to want to share the gospel with your family. And so as a believer, do not let it shake your faith. Do not let yourself become anxious over these matters. Understand it's a process that the world is going to go through, and God has promised to take care of you. By the way, no matter how this life ends for me, it really hasn't ended. I'm just stepping over into glory. So don't let it shake you.
So we need to stand against it. We need to try to vote properly if our vote matters.
Yes.
We need to try to teach right and teach our children and grandchildren and anybody around us. We need to influence all we can. With the realization that in the end this thing is coming because God said it was.
Live in faith and not in fear.
Yeah. And stand against it, but also have the knowledge and understanding that if this is the end times, and we believe it is, this thing is coming, and it's coming fast.
And it's it's like a steam engine. It chug, 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 and then all of a sudden it's more. And once it gets its full steam, it's full steam ahead. And I believe that's where we're at in this thing.
Yeah. Globalism is here. It's here now. It's just not fully implemented, or the complete control is not here yet. The financial thing is a big deal to the control of the people. Well, we want to thank all of our supporters out there. Thank you for putting up the money and sending the gifts and keeping us on the air. We are viewer supported, and we sure appreciate everything that our partners have done to keep us on here. Well, until next time, keep your eyes on them skies.